We are here for our Q&A. I have my trusty bourbon, and we've done a few of these now, and I know that the questions start rolling a little bit later. So start formulating your questions, ideas, topics we can talk about, and I guess I'll give you the State of the Union. What's going on here in Louisville, Kentucky? Probably like the rest of the country. We're on pretty good lockdown. Nothing's open. We've spent our day. I shot a bunch of videos for Country Dance Online. We got a bunch new. Yeah, we can grab the computer so I can see the chats. We have a bunch of new videos coming out soon. We're editing them for Country Dance Online. So we did a bunch of two-step ones today. That's pretty exciting. We've got some nightclub ones coming. What else is in the works? Yeah, that's what's in the works. We are working on we have a dance cruise business. Dancefun.com is our dance cruise business. And obviously that's pretty crazy. So we've been working on getting people situated who are not going to be going with us in the future. We know are on for our cruise to Alaska in late July. So that's still up and running. We've been told by Royal Caribbean that they will be cruising in mid-July. So that was kind of exciting. Obviously, fingers crossed, we have no idea. Everything changes day by day. But we've been trying to take care of people that way. Business, boring stuff, because we have a small business, so we're worried about all that budgets and money and no income and all that stuff. So we've been trying to be good stewards of all of that and make sure we know where we're at. So that was kind of my morning. Since we're dealing with a lockdown, I work out quite a bit. So I set up my little home gym. So I had my first full workout like I did at the gym. That was pretty cool right before I came here. So what are you guys up to? What's going on with life, dancing on your own, practicing in your living room? How's all that going for everybody, and what kind of topics do we want to talk about today? I have my trusty bourbon. We are in the land of bourbon. I watched a bourbon documentary yesterday. What's that? Are we good?
Are we good now?
Do we not have audio on one of them? Facebook, is that number one? Is that mic number one?
Yes, it should be number one.
Facebook is number one. Facebook is blinking. Facebook is blinking. Hang on, Facebook.
There you go.
We're coming. Hello, Aaron, able to join. Audio being fixed. I swear we never have these issues on our regular videos with these mics. William says your shoulders are shot right now. What are your shoulders shot from, William? Did you working out, dancing with fake partners? Did your fake partner, do you have a partner? Yeah, I'm blinking here on Facebook. It's live now. It looks good.
Anything?
That looks like it's reading. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. What's up, Melina Ramirez?
Turn it off if you're my home.
Hang on, Facebook. We're coming.
I can't hear you. Oh, it did pick it up.
We're coming.
Anything?
We're coming with audio there, Facebook friends. YouTube audio is good. Thank you, William.
It's not seeing anything through.
Oh, work it out. William says his shoulders are shot from working out. Mine are pretty good. I didn't go too crazy. I did do a couple of day hike the other day. We did an overnight with my nephew. So we were out for 20 miles, and we did, in essence, the equivalent of elevation gain and loss as a hike across the Grand Canyon from the South Rim to the North Rim. That's about 22 miles, and we did about 21. And the net elevation gain and loss. Hang on, Facebook. We're coming. We got a bad. Which one is it, Megan? That's crazy. I apologize, Facebook. Bingo, I got you.
You're good now. Don't unplug it. Oh, wait.
How's that?
Go on. Yeah.
Testing 1, 2, 3. That's good. That's threaded through me. You can't take it off, my dear.
Okay.
All right, we'll figure that out in a little bit. Can you hear me now? There we go. How's the audio, Facebook? I know we're on delay.
It's on delay still.
You should be good. It's picking up on the mic now.
Good deal. Sorry, gang. Every day it's something, I swear to God. We test all this stuff. We did videos all day long. And for some reason, the live feed is a nightmare. Is it still coming? We're on. Cool, we're on. We
Yes.
are on. So what topics are on top of mind? Tell me what's going on with you guys. What's new, where you're from, what's going on in your state. I know there's some states that aren't on the same lockdown that the rest of us are. Typically the ones like North Dakota and South Dakota, because there's less people and less space. Kentucky is, I don't know, how many people we have in Kentucky?
A lot.
Here's an interesting stat about Kentucky, because I did not grow up here. And there are more barrels of bourbon in the state of Kentucky than there are people, and that is a real stat. There is more barrels of bourbon in the state of Kentucky than there are. Can someone look that up? How many barrels of bourbon in Kentucky? And
Well, there's 4.468 million people.
there's like 4.4, 4.68 million people in Kentucky, and there are, I bet you, 6 million barrels of bourbon, I'm going to guess. If that's not a crazy...
7.5 million?
7.5 million barrels of bourbon. Isn't that crazy? So what's up with you, Erin Abel? Erin Abel joined our live chat. We miss you. She actually just sent me a text with one of the routines we used to do. Erin was a student of mine for a good long time and a very good friend, and she retired after going all the way through the Pro-Am ranks in the UCWDC, and then going all the way through the line dance ranks and achieving superstar status, which is like the top level of line dance. And so, Michael says, great stat about the bourbon, send you a barrel. Those things are expensive. There was a, what do you call it? A rickshaw? Rick house. Rick house is where they store the bourbon barrels. And there's a, it's Barton Distillery. They have 1792, which by the way is a really good bourbon. And we'd visited there a couple years ago. Well, they had a rick house fall down. Half of it fell down. And then about a week and a half later, the other half fell down. And it destroyed like thousands and thousands and thousands of barrels of bourbon, and like some absurd like $60 million of value in the bourbon for a rick house that fell apart. That's crazy. So yes, I like my bourbon. I have slowed down the evening bourbon. I do enjoy it with you guys here. Gives me something to do in between the questions. Knob Creek is quite nice. Hello, Saria. Brian Picard. What's up, Brian? So for those of you guys who don't know, Erin says she's just hanging out on the couch watching my friend do his thing. Yeah, this is a new thing, right? This live feed thing is a new thing for us. The videos in front of the camera are easier. The live feeds are they're a little different. We've got to figure it out though. Because it's live. William says, I don't know enough about dancing to have any questions. It's funny, when I, several years ago, over a decade ago now, 12 years ago, I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is a grappling art, kind of like wrestling. And I did it for two reasons. Number one, I love fighting stuff. And number two, it was fascinating to go back in and be a beginner again. And to your point, William, knowing what I knew about dancing and having become a professional in the dance world, I knew that I was probably ignorant and wouldn't be able to ask an intelligent question for 2 to 3 years. And that kind of rung true. But your ego still gets involved when you're smart and you think you're good at something, you know something. I remember being a white belt. That's the lowest rank. And I did a tournament as a white belt. That's like a newcomer. And I won my newcomer tournament, and I felt pretty good. And some of the experienced guys at the gym came up to me and they said, they go, man, when you get a couple, 3 years under your belt, you're going to be really nasty. And I remember thinking, I just won. I'm really good. That was what my ego said. But then the dance teacher in me was like, you don't know anything for a couple, 3 years. You're going to be 2, 3 years in before you can ask an intelligent question. So William says he's just banging out a lot of West Coast Swing Online videos, trying to figure things out. We hope we are a good resource. That was our goal through both our YouTube channel and our website, West Coast Swing Online. It's designed, we just continually build out resources that will hopefully be helpful to dancers of all levels. And more specifically, I kind of think of dancing as a funnel. Everyone has to pass into the funnel as a beginner. A few people filter down to become, social dancers. A few more become like intermediate to advanced, and then a few turn into competitors and event goers and professionals and that type of stuff. So we try to make sure that we cover the details for this group of people. We got plenty of stuff to say to this group of people, and this is kind of where we're at in our day-to-day, well, not nowadays, but we're all competitors, and we worry about that, and we teach competitive students, but we try to be helpful to newer people and create lots of resources. We've actually learned a lot from you guys. Kat jumps in, says, hello, Emily, Ben, and Megan. Hello, Kat. We miss you. Kat has helped us with our scoring for our swing event, Derby City Swing, for several of the years. We've been lucky to have some pretty cool people. Alicia, what's Alicia's married name? No, Alicia Miller. Alicia, we gotta find out what Alicia's married name. Is it Smith? Maybe. Jill asked a question, interesting. What is the best way to teach a leader if you don't know how to lead very well? So I'm going to assume if you are, as an experienced follower, going to teach a leader, is that the question? Let me know, Jill. Did I get that? Is it you are an experienced follower and you're going to be teaching a leader? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, then two things. You have actually a great resource in being a follower. So obviously, first you need to understand the leader's footwork, right? That's an important element. So obviously know all the footwork to the stuff you're teaching. And all of us go through that as teachers. Even here in the studio, we're teaching an advanced tango class, and we've been teaching tango for a while. We have to go learn some new patterns and master the footwork for leaders and followers. But the advantage you have, and you'll see me do this with Megan a lot of times in videos, is I say, from the follower's perspective, what is it that you're feeling? So because you're a follower, you can give great feedback as to what feels correct to you. So unlike if I were teaching a follower, I'm just teaching from my own understanding, but you will have the reverse that that Megan and Emily have. You as a follower know what works well and what doesn't. So that gives you an advantage in that aspect. And then obviously knowing the footwork is pretty clear. And then watch our videos, and hopefully I can share some stuff that's helpful. And that's the way I look at dancing when I try to teach stuff on videos. I go, we have to know footwork at a certain point, right? At a high level, it becomes less important, but that's after you've mastered a bunch of stuff. So we work through footwork, and then there's general lead and follow concepts that we all kind of know, away connection, towards connection. We teach rotational connection. And then after that, each pattern has a couple of keys. What's the key as the leader, and what's the key as the follower to making that happen? So if, as you're teaching stuff, you look through stuff, you go, okay, do I know my footwork on both sides of the equation? Do I know the general lead and follow of it? And then what's a key? Because in my experience, students can't handle a million things. They just want to lock into one or two clear things, and that will get you off to the races. And then all you need to do is stay a step or two ahead of the people you're teaching, and you will learn a ton through that process. So hopefully that answers your question. Becky says, I'm glad you're okay. I worry for some of the instructors that have lost their income overnight. Me too. And I was actually, this is kind of a personal story. I was doing my first home workout today, and part of my workout is to do like a little bit of a wind sprint to the end of the block and back. And I had back surgery in early 2007. I struggled with back issues for 10 years. And while I was crippled, literally out of work for like 9 weeks, is when I decided to lock down and grow my business, studio and events and online business and dance cruises, and really to grow a business around dancing, because I realized that my body was fallible. So today I'm doing my little wind sprint, and I remember when I was cleared to start walking a few days after back surgery, I would literally time myself to the end of the block. And I think when I was first walking, it would take me like 12 minutes to get to the end of the block because I was hobbling. And I was so proud of myself too. I was like, look how good I'm walking. And it was terrible. So, but the point of that story is that most of us as dance teachers, we're just happy we make a good income teaching dancing. It's a good per hour rate. And then even me, I had a studio at that point for like 8 years or so. But we didn't really worry about the what ifs, right? And so I actually did a bunch of videos on that at one point. So I feel for people too, and for a long time, you guys know this, like we pushed out these start now videos, start now, start worrying about the future now, start worrying about the what if now, start worrying about what if your back gets hurt, or, no one can predict this. That's the thing. Even within our own business, no one could predict this. So no one was prepared for a complete shutdown. But I feel terrible for service workers, small business owners, people kind of at the end of the food chain where the buck stops with them. Like if you're a bartender, the buck stops with you. If there's beer to sell, if there's drinks to sell, you're making money. But as soon as people can't come in and buy a beer, there's no other recourse. So I feel terrible for those people. I wish I could help. So at least we're going to try to keep people entertained through this. Am I missing any question?
Yes.
Oh, okay, go ahead. George, I see you. I'm going to get to you. Question.
Aaron asks, what do you miss most about in-person lessons?
Aaron asks, what do I miss most about in-person lessons? Good question. I think I'm a little bit of a chameleon. Personally, I've been shifting away from teaching on the floor, kind of from a physical standpoint. I still have some back issues, and so I've been doing less of that, so my brain has already been transitioning. So not a ton personally, to be honest. It kind of hurts my heart more for, I think it was Jill that, who commented about the dance teachers that, Becky commented about the dance teachers that have lost their job. My heart hurts more for these guys behind the camera, and you know, we have a young teacher that moved out from Kansas City this summer, you know, and he jumped into a great position. He was doing awesome. He's a super good dancer. Shout out to Jacob Thornton. Super good dancer, super energetic, was doing great. You know, coming out of high school, he was making a lot of money for him, and then it's gone fast. So so my heart goes out to all those guys. But for what I miss personally, I'm just thankful that we continue to do things like this, and we've got some other stuff going on around it. We're in a good place to hopefully weather the storm and keep everyone's bank accounts okay to get through the mess. Did I miss another one?
Brian Picard has a great idea.
Brian Picard has a great idea. He always has great ideas.
Yes. He said, loving all the cool basic variations. Would love to see the viewers call out a pattern, and you guys mix them up in a fun amalgamation for us.
That's good. So Brian wanted to have the viewers call out a pattern, and then we mix them up in an amalgamation as we go. That's a great idea, because someone actually said, you know, we're not like the YouTuber crazy people that do 5 ways to do blah, blah, blah. My niece and nephews watch these videos. The people who have like 2 million subscribers. My niece and nephew are like, I have two sets of nieces and nephews. There's two 13-year-olds, two 15-year-olds. And they basically make fun of me because our YouTube channel only has like 23,000 subscribers, and I don't have like 4 million like PewDiePie or whatever these people do. But these guys have very interactive PewDiePie, whatever is, and the Logan Paul, the Paul brothers, Logan Paul that make, we'll talk about them in a second. But yes, this has given us an interactive thing. So yes, one of the ideas was music rights are an issue, but we thought if we could find a song that we could play and it just wouldn't be monetized and we could just play it, that we could play a song in the background and we could do some call outs. So I like that idea, Brian, and we will, Miss Emily, can you add that to the mix?
I like it.
I like it too.
Then George has a question.
George.
Did you see his? Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, read George's question for us.
George said, the other day when you were demonstrating whips, and I seem to recall that you were asking about other whips. Are you going to demo reversed locked whips?
What is a reversed locked whip? Good question, George. George asked, we did a video of 5 different whips that you need to know. And so he asked if we were to do a reverse locked whip. And I'm not 100% sure what that is. Locked whip, basket whip, locked whip. That's a good question. You stumped us, George. They're working behind the camera trying to figure this one out. Hang on, George. Go try it. You got a stump. Yeah, try it. Is this what you're talking about, George? Yes or no, George?
Can you even see Ben's head? No.
You don't need to see my head. It's whatever.
You can't see anything.
All right, George, tell us if this is the pattern you're thinking about. Give me a yes or no, George. What's up, John Lindsay? John Lindsay jumped in. John Lindsay is the general manager of an awesome country. Yeah, you came on the live feed, Ben. I couldn't see up to your shoulder.
This is why we did chairdancing.
Yeah. John Lindsay is a long-term friend. He is the GM of an awesome bar,
I didn't do it on Facebook.
Roundup down in Davie, Florida. We love that place. We were actually...
He saved our booty.
Yeah, we were actually there before our cruise in October, and we were going to come visit you, John. We were down there back in the end of February. We just didn't make it by. We went up dancing somewhere up the coast, not to your place. I apologize. Brian says, let me know that's going down. He's going to grab Kat and see if he can learn along with me. Yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be fun.
Benji, where's your face?
Erin says, Ben, where's your face in the video?
It's in YouTube.
Caroline's picture.
So Janet has a great question on YouTube. She says, how do you get more creative and innovative with West Coast Swing, not just doing patterns? Great question. And somewhere in our annals, there's a couple of videos specifically on that, but let me see if I can give you an overarching view. So you have a basic set of patterns, right? Pushes, passes, and whips. Now, you can take those endlessly and add to them and make them super complex. But at some point, I think to your point, Janet, it's like, well, now I'm just running through patterns. So what else can I do? So first, you have to know your core social patterns cold, right? And understand them so that you can then live and breathe. So what does that mean? How do I get creative? Somewhere, can we look on West Coast Swing Online, look under styling? There's something we did on creativity that was really well thought out. I can't remember what it is. I'll look it up. But number one is to understand musicality, right? So if I can understand the music, then the music can start to tell me what I can do within my patterns. I gotta know my patterns first, but then the music will tell me different accents that I need to pay attention to within those patterns that will inspire me, right? But then the final question is, what do I do creatively within my patterns? And that gets to a styling thing, right? And so from there, you can drill things to do with your footwork, things to do with your body, things to do with rotations. We do an ultimate guide to leader styling and an ultimate guide to follower styling. And we cover footwork drills, and then we apply them to the basic patterns. Then we cover body isolation drills and apply them to all your basic patterns. And then we cover rotations and things that are kind of common these days that you can apply. So that's, I think, your understanding, deepening your understanding of musicality, and then going through and finding handfuls of, Ben and Emily are literally doing patterns, trying to figure, I assume George's question behind the camera.
They said it starts with two hands.
So that's my approach, right? Like, what can I do with my anchor step? What's 5 things I can do with my anchor step? You can Google 5 ways to style your anchor step, and that'll give you a branch. Then it's like, how can I accent my 1-2? How can I learn to do hitches and things? And so you start to build out your skill set. And let me find you one more resource, Janet. It is Styling Checklist, West Coast Swing. Hang on, Jen, I'm going to drop this. And make sure you guys go to the site, westcoastswingonline.com. Click the resources tab up in the top section. I'm going to drop this in for Janet if I can find it. All right, I'm dropped this. This is a West Coast Swing styling checklist, and there's a bunch of links from there that'll give you an idea. So, more questions. George, they're figuring out your pattern. Kat, good to see you. Go back to work. Thanks for keeping us safe. Susie asked if we meant hammerlock, and that's what they're figuring out behind the corner. Hello, Andy. Good to see you. Stay safe to you as well. And then Dave had, oh, Janet, I dropped it in Facebook, Janet. I apologize. Let me drop the link here for you. I just dropped it in. West Coast Swing Styling Checklist. And from there, on the right-hand side of the page, you can scroll down and look at the musicality and styling section, and there's tons of different ideas. It links out to some videos, and that should help you get a couple of ideas to get creative within your pattern. Not just doing patterns, but being creative within them. Dave says, for leaders and followers, how do you assess the skills of someone with whom you're first dancing, and how do you communicate with them what you can do? That is a great question. So and I'll start as the leader and then as the follower. How do I assess my partner, and then how do I communicate where I'm at? So the first thing, and especially when you're new, I think it's totally cool to just say, hey, I only know the basics. That's helpful for me as a leader when a follower comes that way, because then I go, great, we'll start with the basics. And I feel pretty confident as a leader, so I can scale up from there, but I don't try to start too high and I don't make any assumptions. So it's helpful if you can just tell people. So tell people where you're at. Typically, people who do that almost short sell themselves, but that's good because then as the leader or follower will kind of be pleasantly surprised. So I think articulating where you're at and what you're comfortable with and not comfortable, especially like injury, I have a bad arm, please no hammerlock positions, that's great. And then me as the leader, I'm kind of identifying a couple different things. Number one, I'm trying to identify the connection. Right off the bat, first time I touch their hand, what's the connection like? Is this middle of the road good? Is it new? Is this an advanced person? Then I'm paying attention to the timing, right? How clear is the timing for the first couple patterns, right? Is it right on? Is it struggle bus? Or I don't have to worry about it. And then on the other side, I'm also assessing the ability for my partner to spin, right? If she's super comfortable in spins. So I'm kind of doing that right off the bat. Second I touch their hand, I'm assessing the connection. Is she connected away? Am I getting good connection in my hand? Then I'm going through some of my patterns. How well do those go? And then on the other side, I am looking at how well do spins work, right? So that I can, they're figuring out your locked whip on this side. Then from the followers, how do you assess as the followers, they're obsessed with that locked whip behind the camera. They drive me crazy. I want to send you a picture of the three of them. They're all like huddled in the computer at George's question. But how do you guys assess as the follower your pattern, like where your leader is at?
I go through my own footwork.
But how do you assess
4, 6, and 8.
how do you assess what level they're at, what you're going to get out of that dance? They just follow. So much easier. So much easier. Dave.
It's not easier for a lot of them, but you're holding your ground. You can always go back to your basic footwork.
I make sure I do my basics and follow.
Janet, I just dropped it again. It's under westcoastswingonline.com. It should be, let's see if I can, I dropped it in there again, Janet. Let me see if you can't see that one. I see it a couple times in there. From the follower, I would think the same thing, right? You're assessing the connection. You're going to assess the timing. And then you're going to kind of assess, I would say, because they're obsessed with this locked whip over here, I would say the same thing that I would do, I'd be assessing like how complicated of a pattern can my follower handle? Like if I lead a simple turn, is that easy as pie or is that a struggle? In which case, I'm going to be careful with the complexity of what I lead. From the follower's perspective, I'd assume you would be deciding, is this going to be a comfortable, easy, basic dance, or am I going to get thrown through everything, in which case you need to be super responsive and protect yourself. So
Yes.
Jessica says, as a follower, I do the same things you mentioned. Thank you, Jessica, because I'm not a professional follower, and my professional followers are obsessed with George's pattern behind the camera. That's awesome. So hopefully that answers your question, Dave, but that is, we actually did a video on that, 3 things that you we've done a couple different videos, 3 ways to assess your partner, 3 ways to dance with someone who's not connected, leaders and followers perspective. Those are on YouTube, and some of the rest of them are on the site. Let me scooch back over to Facebook. How are we doing, Facebook? What's going on over there? Erin says she assesses. Oh, here's some good things. Let me share these with everybody. I'm going to jump to Becky and Erin's comment. So Becky says that she assesses by their body lead, you can feel it. Absolutely. From a connection standpoint, you can feel when it's very army, which is i.e. new. And then as we get better, the connection is solid enough that there's less necessary to move with the arm and more with the body. So right off the bat, you're assessing their connection. And Erin says this basically the same thing in a different way, the clarity of their lead. As leaders get better, they're very clear at the subtle movements. And I have a story, there's a guy by the name of John Lindo, who a lot of you guys will know. And a long time ago, maybe 20 years ago now, I followed John Lindo. And I remember thinking that there would be something magical in his lead. He's a renowned good leader, right? And I remember thinking there'd be something beautifully silky smooth, and it actually wasn't that. He was just very clear at where he needed me to go. So if he rolled me in and he wanted me to stay put, he would cozy up alongside me. So he was very clear. So from that standpoint, if things are clear as the follower, life is good for you. If they're not clear, now it's just a question of how unclear are they and what might the dance present itself. And if you've danced this for a long time, George's lock whipped is going to kill the Dance Louisville faithful behind us. Yeah, Erin says, again, same thing. Like she's clarifying she's trying to figure out, are they clearly communicating where you should go, or does the lead seem confusing? So if the lead seems confusing, the follower ends up, and you can correct me, followers, if I'm wrong, you start to go into what I would think of like, what pattern am I in? Like, I'm getting all this crazy, confusing connection. What does the leader mean by that? Is this some sort of a push, some sort of a pass, some sort of a whip? Is it some sort of an outside rotation, inside rotation? That's why I teach for the followers, you can't know every pattern, but you have to know like the base of the tree, right? The base of the tree is push, pass, whip. Then from pushes, what types of, sugar pushes and tucks and things from that branch of the tree. Passes, what are the possibilities in passes and what are the possibilities in whips? Whips with inside turns, outside turns, different hand holds. So as the follower, you kind of want to understand that tree so you can try to figure out which branch of the tree the leader's heading you down. And that's why I'm a big proponent of understanding your footwork for followers, and I see this missing a lot in lower level dancers. They don't understand their footwork well. Now, there's a caveat kind of in the high novice, low intermediate level where people say, no, you need to lead and follow. And Damon D'Amico once said, you guys know Damon, he said, followers, you've always been told not to anticipate. And he goes, this is brilliant. He goes, I want you to anticipate, I just don't want you to act too quick. So if you know the general possibilities and you have them ready to go, then you sit back and you wait, right? And then the second you have an idea, clear lead or not, you go, got it, I know what you're doing. I think that's a skill set of advanced level followers, whether they can articulate it that way or not. Erin says, absolutely, what pattern is this? How can I make the timing clear for the leader and stay away from a ton of styling? I think that's a great point. But Erin, I'm spoiled because we danced together for almost a decade. Yeah, so from the follower's perspective, you're looking for what pattern is it? How can I make the timing clear? So you become the metronome for the leader, right? And then stay away from a lot of styling. And I run into this as the leader. I might dance basic patterns with someone and say, hey, I can take care of you, dance basic patterns. I start to move and have my fun stuff within the basic patterns. It can get confusing for the other person if they're not very good. So to Erin's point, you can stay away from styling because that might confuse things. Now, if everything's good and you can get to the basics, cool, have a ball. Becky says, I have a leader that's still in the learning mode. When he closes his eyes in the middle of a dance, I say to myself, oh no, he's freestyling something and I just go along with it. I work at keeping myself, she works on keeping the correct timing. Yeah, good luck, Becky. We've all been down that road. And that's part of the struggle for us as we learn, right? We want to do the cool stuff and we sometimes don't understand the stepping stones it takes to get there, and we want to shortchange the process and jump right to the cool stuff. And so as teachers, we have to, I think we all have to balance that. Bye, Benji. Bye. Take care, buddy. Cheers to you. Benji has a day job he needs to get back to. He started dancing full time back in September, and it was not a good time with the advent of coronavirus. Yeah, so to your point, Becky, yeah, there are going to be times in between things where where the leaders are going to go crazy, and from the leader's perspective, I have a lot more say in that. From the follower's perspective, you don't. If you're getting drugged through things and moved through patterns that are not on time and not clear and all that stuff, you kind of, again, have to up your game to be able to move quickly and get through things, quite frankly, so you don't get hurt. Hold your ground. But as to Erin's point earlier, you're going to try to still be the metronome and find that clear timing and almost eke them back on time. Let me hop over to YouTube. Oh, there's a bunch of stuff. Let me see if I can get these in order. You're welcome, Janet. Reading Diane's. Do you want to read these out?
I can.
Yeah, let's read Diane's. That way I can look at the camera and smile.
That's just a was new, only knew 2 or 3 steps. Still one of my favorite waltzes because he nailed the rise and fall.
Yeah, Diane said a long time ago at a country venue, someone asked her to waltz, and he said he was new and only knew 2 or 3 steps, and it was still one of her favorite waltzes because he nailed the rise and fall. Yeah, I think it's good. I wouldn't feel bad about telling people, especially when you're newer, telling people where you're at, because it's difficult, like as a traveling coach, right? There's 2 types of coaches. There's people who teach in studios, same students over and over, and then there's these cool kids that travel around. They're in every different city and country, and I've done both for a long period of time. It is more ego gratifying to be the traveling coach, and it's actually really hard if you pay attention to it because you don't know what you're getting when you teach that lesson, right? And that's what happens in social dancing is I don't know what I'm getting when I walk into it. So I teach people when they take lessons from traveling coaches that you need to be very clear where you're at, what you want to get out of this, right? So from a social dance perspective, I think it's great to say, hey, I'm new. Hey, I just learned a couple of different things. As a leader, hey, I learned a couple of different patterns. I'm going to try them. So I think that's great because that puts the person on the other end of the equation. They're not blind and they have a little bit of an idea where they're going with that. Janet says, this is from Megan. How do you adjust when you're dancing with a leader that has his hand on your hip and waist and not your shoulder blade? So when they're not connecting here, they droop the hand into some, like when beginners, because we teach beginners all the time, right? Wedding lessons, and they go, here's your closed frame, and they go, oh, and this hand goes down by the hip. How do you adjust that hand? I think that's your question.
Well, when teaching, I actually just move the hand. While I'm dancing,
So,
I don't fix it.
good question. So Megan says when she's teaching, she just moves the hand, right? She just picks that hand up. But when she's social dancing, she doesn't fix it because that becomes tricky, right? You don't want to correct people on the dance floor.
I mean, unless it's in a very inappropriate place.
Yeah, Megan says unless it's in a very inappropriate place, and that's a whole nother discussion. I don't want to tackle that one. I want to get away from that one. And those people exist. They exist. They've been here. We try to kick them out. They're still around. Yeah, but I think that's so there's not a great way to adjust it on the fly other than to try to connect into it. Yeah. Could you give one fix as the follower? When the hand's sliding down, can you give one fix? Would you do that as the follower? I don't know. I don't know what the culture is.
But you could.
Yeah, Megan says she doesn't, but you could. What about you, Emily?
I just keep doing my footwork.
Emily just doesn't doing her footwork. So that's the tricky thing, social dance-wise, right? You don't want to be teaching. But that's, interesting question. Donna and Bob say, how do you handle a follower that always wants to battle to lead? I'm going to take a gamble and say that by battling to lead, it's going to typically be a strong, heavy follower that is probably dancing what they're dancing, and they're so heavily connected to you that it becomes annoying. I try to be politically correct, but it becomes annoying, right? Because there's this heavy, strong follower, so whatever that follower is doing is getting communicated to me, and so it feels like they're completely taking over, right? There's no back and forth. So how would I handle that? I follow them. As the leader, I follow them. So I'm leading a turn and they're dragging me through it, right? And I'm leading what I want and they go where they want, and I try to cultivate the ability to go with that and make it as if that's what I meant to do. It's not fun. It's 100% not fun for sure. But that's my approach. You kind of going on assessing, I figured out right away. First turn, I get janked through from the lead perspective, and I go, I'm not in charge anymore. I'm not leading. This is not a conversation. I'm going to initiate something, and I'm going to go with it. So I'm going to move my footwork wherever they go, and I'm going to try to lead stuff, and I'm going to take a presupposition to your question that in turn things you're getting drug around. So I will lead things that are more in closed position, that I have less of these hands flying overhead that are going to drag my arms. I have a bad shoulder too, like less of that, and I'm going to lead more tuck style stuff where it's a little tighter and I have a little bit more control through a connection on the body. So hopefully that answers your question, Donna and Bob. Jack says, John Lindo is awesome. I've met him. Yeah, I've known John for a long time, since probably the late 90s. He's awesome. He's a good dude. We should have been, what weekend is it? We should have hung out with him this past weekend up in Calgary, if everything was good. Gary jumps back in and says, Gary says he's confused. If he's following your example of dancing, counting straight eights, and your follower is doing a 6-count pattern, timings, and moves, how can you make that work? Good question. That is if you guys saw the musicality bucket, in the beginning, we're trying to keep timing. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6, or a whip. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We're trying to keep on time, right? So typically, we're counting our patterns at that stage. But at some stage in the intermediate and beyond level, we can do that. We can do that cold, right? And so now we need to start to worry about connecting to the music. So the music is typically working in straight eights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the 2, 4, 6s, and 8s will always match up. And this comes into our musicality course that we did. We can drop the link to that musicality course. Because we go through this in detail through 20 videos, because it is a process. But the 8 beats keep going, right? So if I'm dancing, and do this in your head, dance 3 sugar pushes. First thing we're going to count like it's beginner class. 1, 2, 3, and 4, anchor 5 and 6. Walk 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5 and 6. Third time, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. But if the music is keeping going in 8s, then that sugar push is going to be danced 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. Walk 7, 8, triple 1, and 2, anchor 3, and 4. Walk 5, 6, triple 7, and 8, anchor 1, and 2. If that confused you, counting straight eights is what you want to master. We have a video on it, and then the entire course will walk you through it. I wish I could give you a short answer, but it's a process. Someone says the camera on YouTube lost focus.
That's old. It should be fine.
It's old. We're back on. So hopefully that answers your question, Gary. It is a process. It is not easy. Salsa Bob, hopefully we got our camera back online. Emily jumped in and said, we're refreshing the screen. Babadonna said, yes, we answered the question. That's great. And refreshing the screen did help. Uh-oh, someone said they're super confused about the counting straight eights. Is that confusing? Megan, can we get I need a power cord for this computer too. Erin shared some really good things on the Facebook feed, but I'm partial because I know Erin really, really well. And she's quite a good dancer, even though she's quasi-retired. George said on Facebook, I think that the first indication of the leader's level would be if they hurl their hands opposite of a body lead. Yes. My general rule is if I see the hand moving a lot on any level, competitive dancers, when I'm watching social dancing, I'm not judging, I'm just enjoying what's good and letting the rest pass by, so I'm not judging. But if I were to be judging a competition and I see a lot of hand movement, that tells me the partners aren't connected. When you see really good partners, you almost see no movement in the hand, and people talk about body leads and all that, but it comes from the ability for the partners to connect and move through their feet, a little bit beyond the scope of being able to explain here, but being connected and move through their feet, and then there's very little perceptible change in the hand position to create leads. And it's a skill set that includes not only connection through the arms and centers, but also the communication of body weight through their feet. And that's something that doesn't get talked about. And the longer that I do this, the more I think that's a big key, is that better dancers move through their feet better and communicate their weight into the floor better and where their centers are. And that translates to the center and then to the hands to the connections, and then you get less of this business. Oh, here's a link to the musicality course. Yes, not to be salesy, but that musicality course, again, we've taught this like one-on-one to people for years and years and years, but over the past 4 years, we did a musicality course 1.0, we didn't know it was 1.0, but through the years, we learned, it's kind of a thought process I had, we kind of found that there was 3 types of people in musicality, because what would happen is, we'd have this course, we'd teach it, people would take it, I'd travel on, I'd meet people who knew what we were teaching, and I watched where they struggled. And they were struggling in 3 different areas. Number 1, the first part of the bucket was timing. They were struggling with staying on time in their basics. Got it, cool. Then they were struggling staying on time with more advanced moves, right? How do you approach that? And being really clear to the music. Then they were struggling with staying on time with different styles of music. But that was the first part, staying on time. Then, to George's point, the counting straight 8s, right? And if I say that, like the way I counted it before, if that freaks you out, you're in the middle of the bucket. And so we had people that even understood the concept, but struggle with making a connection to doing it consistently. So we redid the Musicality course, and it's on sale now for $69. You can get the link in YouTube or Facebook. Did we drop it in Facebook too? Drop it in Facebook. And through the middle course, we took some of the best drills that we had, finding the struggle points of people, and walked you through step by step, like you have to do this, then you have to do this, and if you can't master this, stay with it. Here's a couple things that'll help to get to the next level. And the third bucket of people were really uncovering the real details of the song, what's different in blues music versus contemporary music, and where are the subtle accents, and how do I choose to hit those accents, and what ways can I use my patterns to hit those accents. And so that was kind of the third bucket. So we really try to redo the Musicality in what I call version 2.0 to cover all those things. And no matter where you are in that bucket, that course will get you to the next level. And if you are brand new, literally the beginning of that course of counting music and staying on time is the first thing you need to master anyways. So the course is useful, and then it literally walked you all the way through. And that came from you guys because we got feedback through emails and Facebook comments and meeting people one-on-one. So Philip jumps in and says, the most exciting part of dancing is carrying on a 3-minute conversation with a complete stranger without saying an absolute word. When that works, it's the best feeling in the world. Your take. Yeah, for sure. That matched connection. And the fun thing for me is to realize that it doesn't even need to be the best dancer in the world you're dancing with. In a lot of cases, it's the right dancer that matches up well for you. And I remember when I was newer, there were people that I liked dancing with most that weren't the best people because they seemed to match well with me and my style and my approach and what I knew at that time. And it was almost more magical dancing with those people than some of the better dancers. So yeah, that's kind of a neat thing, and you can't always predict when it happens and how it's going to happen. That's kind of the part of the fun of it. And that's the part we miss. Would you agree? Miss Emily, she likes to. How about you, Megan? Do you miss it?
What do I miss?
You're an introvert. Do you miss not dancing with people right now? She's squinting her eyes. She says sometimes. I think Miss Emily misses it. Miss Emily misses it all the time, yeah. I miss it a little bit, but I'm thankful that I've had a ton of time on the dance floor over the years. I think the last count was over 40,000 hours of some form of dancing. So I've been lucky. So Gary says, love that you're having a drink while you're doing these presentations. I feel better to dance when I have a drink or two. Funny story. And then Jack says, looks like bourbon. I had some Merlot myself. So I'm from Kentucky, so bourbon. This is Knob Creek. This is good, reasonably priced, readily available bourbon in most places. So I have a funny story, a Devon story. You guys will know the Devon story. So we have this guy, Devon, and there tend to be a lot of engineers. Who's watching that's an engineer? Because a lot of dancers, especially leaders, are engineers. So Devon was a very dedicated student, maybe not the most talented student, but he became a good dancer, and he was a great student and a great learner. And he would take everything I said literally, so he progressed really quickly. Well, one day, as an offhanded comment, I told him that it was scientifically proven, due to my studies, that you dance better on 2.2 drinks, right? 2.2. I've since debunked this study for myself, and I'll explain that in a second. But I told him at one point that you scientifically dance better on 2.2 drinks. So then Devon got a dance partner, and he started doing a routine. And they started performing the routine, and they practiced quite a bit, and they did a competition and all that stuff. And if you guys have ever done a routine, that's a pretty complex thing, right? A specific song, specific choreography. So he done really well. And then his partner started saying, I think Devon has a drinking problem because, one day I mentioned that I like this kind of beer, and he brought that kind of beer into the studio, and we had a little taste. And so that made sense. But then over the next couple weeks, he'd come in on our weekend practices, and he always had alcohol in his breath. And Devin's a pretty straight-laced guy. And what the reality was is Devin took my 2.2 drink story literally and was literally having 2 drinks before his practices because he thought it would make him better. But I've since debunked that, and when Megan and I competed, I figured out that a cup of coffee or a half of an energy drink was way better than 2.2 drinks. There you go.
That's awesome. But he's an engineer.
George is an engineer. I was right.
Industry.
I was right, George.
Oh, is George still watching?
He's still watching.
George, is this what you were wanting?
George, is this the pattern you're wanting? They work tirelessly, all 3 of them. Is that what you wanted, George?
I hope it is.
Yeah, so that kind of gets, we got an email again earlier today where someone said, hey, Brian, you seem to know the question before you ask it. And we figured this out in the studio. There is a plethora of engineering type people. And there was a student I had a long time ago that helped me understand this. And I don't know if it's just that that's what typical males are in the population, or if that type of mindset looks at this artistic thing called dancing and tries to dissect it and understand it. I think that's a big part of it. It actually makes teaching engineers easy for me because they're looking at it very logically. So it is not surprising with your questions, George, that that's it. But you need to let me know if that is the pattern that the girls just did that you were talking about earlier. Becky says she dances with at least 2 engineers, and there's a lot of teachers out there. Yeah, I had a ballroom coach here in Louisville that was a former engineer, and the way he would approach foxtrot was super mathematical and anal retentive, and there was something good to be had about that. Now, at some point, at a high level, that becomes a little dry, but I think that that's really the groundwork for all of it, thinking about things somewhat logically, because I have a theory that styling you can uncover through technique. People are like, I don't want to learn technique, it's dry. But how do if you say, I want to move like Emily when I do X, Y, Z, or I want to move like Megan, is that their style? Okay, well, how do they give you their style? Well, they have to break it down to fundamental things that they're doing, and to me, that's delivering the technique that becomes their style. And I can go deep onto that. Michael says, electrical and software engineering. Yep. George says, that's close. We're close, George. Jack says he's done quite a few routines, so much fun. They are fun. There was a point in the studio where we were hardcore into West Coast swing as a studio. Now we do a good mix of country swing and ballroom, but there was a point where, I don't even know. How many West Coast swings routines did I have at one point, Megan? A lot. Like 12 plus students doing new West Coast swing routines twice a year. I think at one year I did like 25 or 30 different West Coast swing routines. I was paranoid to mess them up because there are some brilliant people like the Matt Claires of the world that are just brilliant and they remember them, and I was not that person, so I would have to practice really hard to not get all of them confused. Gary said he learned a long time ago that you can't take lessons and drink. Only the first lesson, Gary. We see that a lot. We have a microbrewery next door. Shout out to Holzapfel. Yeah, Emily's got a Holzapfel beer behind the camera. And so, yeah, maybe the first lesson. We have a lot of people the first lesson because they're nervous. But no, long term, it's not good. It's not. I mean, literally, this is cool for me because this is the only time I get to do this, right? I don't drink when we do videos or lessons or maybe social dancing a little bit. So, and I'm trying to be good because it's coronavirus season. I'm keeping my immunity up and keep my diet on point. So someone said that there's a disproportionate amount of left-handed West Coast swing dancers compared to other dancers. Does being left-handed help you in West Coast swing?
I think that's fascinating.
I have no idea. Can you tighten that camera down? I feel so spaciously.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we like.
You don't like that much
Cozy up. Sorry.
What's up, YouTube? No, that's an interesting one. I don't know if there's a disproportionate amount of left-handed West Coast swing dancers. It has not come to light for me. The engineer thing came to light for sure. Followers tend to be teachers and nurses, but I think that's probably just a population thing. Oh, that was good, Emily. You cozied in good. And then I've noticed that there are people who come in and say, well, I was an athlete, that'll help me with my dancing. Or I was a musician, that'll help me with my dancing. All those things don't. In my experience, and you guys can tell me if you find this to be true, and if you think about Dancing with the Stars, you'll probably find out it kind of is. Ice skaters, which, fun fact, Miss Megan was a competitive figure skater, and gymnasts. Ice skaters and gymnasts tend to make exceptional dancers as a rule, right? And if you think about Dancing with the Stars, rattle off the skaters that are on Dancing with the Stars, Megan. Apollo Ono.
Well, he was a speed skater. But
Yep.
Yes.
Yamaguchi, Christy Yamaguchi, fantastic.
Oh, White and what is her?
White and someone.
She was with
A lot.
Max.
A lot of good ice skaters and gymnasts. So that global understanding of movement and body from those two dances, global being like everything, like Megan and her spins, Meryl Davis, and gymnasts. Who are the gymnasts on Dancing with the Stars?
Oh God, everyone.
Gary says, don't take me wrong, I want more people to drink when they dance. It's fun. Simone Biles, Olympic gymnast, Sean Johnson. Yeah, so Diane says, hey, I'm a former artistic roller skater. I've had roller skaters in here. That guy wasn't that good, but I'm with you. I'm with you with the roller skating thing. Like, I think that style of global movement with your body and understanding the subtleties of what's going on underneath you, I think that does give you an advantage. And I had a friend that, Tanya Harding, your boy Ray is in town, so your boy Ray, that's Ray Fry. I've known Ray a long time, and he's a bourbon drinking friend as well. Cheers to you, Ray. Jack said he played the cello and the piano, so that's helped my timing. That's good. And you know what's crazy? It's not been my experience that I think it helps the understanding, but in my experience, and we're going on 20 some odd years now, the ability to physically stay on time to music is like its own thing. Connection, naturally speaking, is kind of its own thing. All those things can be learned and skills can be grown upon, but it's interesting to me that there are people that connect on day one, and the rest of us have to learn it. What's that?
Robert Royston just answered.
Where do you?
Facebook. I do think professional movers have a slight.
Hey, what's up, Robert Royston? Professional movers do have a slight advantage. Yeah, I mean, we got to learn all this stuff, right? We have to learn. I think dancing is super complex because not only is it a coordinated movement, if you think like kata in martial arts, right? There's a coordinated movement that we have to remember. But then you have to coordinate that movement with another partner. That's cool. Then you need to coordinate that movement with another partner to music and a timing. And then you need to live and breathe within that. And freaking Robert Royston is the man at that stuff. If you guys don't know, go on YouTube, Google Robert Royston, and be freaking amazed. Dude, I watch your stuff, I break it down, it's sick. It's just sick. It's just sick. No, but that's true, right? There's a few people that I watch and that are just super, there's another level of artistry and musicality and ability to light up a room. Matt Auclair is another guy that I work with quite often because he lives not far. You're welcome, Robert, man. You're country champion, swing champion, but forget all that stuff. That's cool, trophies, but someone that can just grab someone else and light up a room, that's freaking magical. And Matt Auclair is another dude along the lines of Robert that's just, that guy just grabs someone's hand and the room lights up, and it's just disgusting how much artistry and stuff, and their brains work. They're like savants. I watch them, and I'm well aware that I can't do it, so I just try to deconstruct the things that I can figure out that I can give away to other people. But there is another level to Robert's.
Favorite video that you shared?
What's that? Yeah, so I shared the video of you and Brandy the other day, the tango, holy guacamole. And so the way I broke this down, dude, and you'll appreciate this, I was like, I've seen Robert do the turn behind the back move 100 years. So for all the people trying to figure out this crazy musicality, Robert has such a mastery of the patterns that he uses. And this is, I talk about you all the time, man, all the time. You guys have heard this a lot. He has such a mastery of the patterns that he uses that they're at like fingertip accessibility for whatever whim the music comes in, which is another whole level of his mastery, right? But like, as you guys are figuring stuff out, you need to master what it is that you know so that it's accessible. And then of course you need to master musicality and all that stuff, and that's, you know, the Robert Roystons and the Matt Clairs and those guys are on another level, and it's something to aspire to, but it's their mastery of fundamental techniques and abilities and lead and follow abilities that allow them to pull that out seemingly at the drop of a hat. So, dude, that Brandy thing was just amazing. The tango thing, so good, so good. I feel bad jumping back to YouTube. Charlie says, Emily is the best teacher. Shout out to Emily.
Oh, Charlie.
Jack says, I feel bad Robert Royston's over here on Facebook. Love that guy. He's been super, I'm gonna shout out more to Rob Royston, because there's a few people who have been super supportive. Like over the years I've needed some help, maybe a shout out or something like that, and Robert's always been super available and accessible and helpful. In the country world, so has Tony Lee and Jeff Bartholomew and Barry Durand and Robert. They've been guys that since I was new and green have always been super supportive. So for those of you guys who've been at this for a little bit, or those of you guys who are not, if you've been to class 2 weeks, you could be the inspiration for the person that is coming in the door today. So don't sleep on that. But Jack says, interestingly, you mentioned martial arts. I believe Bruce Lee was a cha-cha champion in Hong Kong back then. So I believe that one helps the other as an art. I don't know if that's true. That's interesting, just because I know how hard dancing is. But yeah, what was the football?
Football players do it.
Football players taking ballet and the like. I think that that's pretty fascinating. But yeah, to me, martial arts. So when I did jiu-jitsu, right, it was very much the same as dancing, save for the music. In that, I would have to learn a technique. What's that?
He did. In 1958, Bruce Lee became the Crown Colony Cha-Cha dancing champion of Hong Kong.
Jack, I stand corrected. I stand corrected. Emily has proven out your statement via Google. He was the cha-cha champion in what year?
1958.
In 1958. Oh, I'm a Bruce Lee fan already. I need to be a bigger Bruce Lee fan. I don't know what I was saying. That was pretty awesome.
Sorry, I just found it.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu. Lots of love to you, Robert, over there on Facebook. Yeah, so like jiu-jitsu, right? Like I wanted to do it because I wanted to start as a beginner again. So you would learn all these basic techniques. You learn the basics: side pass, sugar push, whip, blah, 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 right? All this boring stuff day one. And you'd almost forget about it. It was so fundamental, you should have stayed on that forever. But then you learn these techniques. And then much like dancing, you go to a group class, you learn a bunch of stuff, and then the music comes on and it like seems to fall apart. So you'd learn these techniques and then you would spar and it would fall apart. You didn't have command of it yet, right? Kind of shouting back out to Robert Royston, having these musical moments in Jack and Jill's. The technique mastery just wasn't there. And so you'd have to close the gap from understanding the basics of the technique and being able to apply it when you want. And you have to slowly close that gap. And there's no secret other than time and dedication. And if you're impatient, that's helpful. And if you're patient, that's helpful. Meaning, I'm impatient that I want to do it, but I'm patient enough to know it's going to take time. Yeah, Gary says that's true about Bruce Lee. That's crazy. That's crazy. Thanks for sharing, Jack. I never knew. Now I'm going to go home and buy a picture of Bruce Lee and put him on my dance wall at the house. And Becky says, you're both just real people. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. I'm going to assume that's Robert Royston and me. Yes. Yay! Robert says, preach, young man, preach. I'm glad we see it the same way. We haven't had a lot of those talks in person, so it's kind of cool. Yeah, it's kind of cool to know that, because I've broken down. I talked to Louis the other day, and I was bragging about Robert Royston's musical brilliance, and I think it comes from a mastery of, I mean, obviously a level of talent and ability, but right, a long time in the game and a lot of mastery of what you're doing, just so I can say, look at 306 of this video where he hits this moment on tango and starts moving towards the camera, and you're just amazed. But it's like what happened to get there is 20, 30 years of doing it. So you are the man. 35 years. I knew it was going to be over 30. Shit. Did you start as a line dancer, Robert, in the bar? Is that the truth? On YouTube, it says, I'll never doubt Jack again. No, that's a good one, Jack. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Bruce Lee was a cha-cha champion of Hong Kong in 1958. Dang, who knew? I still think I could take him in cha-cha.
11 amazing facts about Bruce Lee.
11 amazing facts. I think I could take him in cha-cha.
Number 1 was a cha-cha champion.
Yeah, I don't think I could take him in martial arts because he knew a little grappling. So he knew some grappling because he was the first one to meld everything together.
He was also a child actor.
Bruce Lee was also a child actor. Yeah, Bruce Lee was one of the first guys to meld things together in a mixed martial arts thing. If you guys are it's actually somewhat applicable to dancing. Is it the Book of Five Rings? No, it's my nephew, my 15-year-old nephew read that, right? Like I forget the quote. What's the Miyoto Musashi quote? Like if you see the way in one thing, you will see it in all things. And that was kind of like a Bruce Lee philosophy, right? If you understand the true concepts of a particular dance, you can see it in all dancing. And then if you can see it in dancing, you can see it in martial arts, and you can see it in life. William says, I'll be amazed 10 years after I croak, I guess. You're all right, William. You're fun. And Robert said he started as a line dancer. That's what I thought, and I did too. So to all of you West Coast swing and country and social dancers, learn to dance on your own and move your own body, because there is an invaluable skill set that you will receive through that. And in my own teaching, funny story, Erin joined the live chat earlier. I think she's gone now, but when she started dancing with me, I'd broken my arm in martial arts, go figure. And so for a period of time, all my students, and Erin started during this time, I taught them all the routines without leading them because my arm was broken. And so for the next 10 years of Erin's dance career, she preferred learning on her own, and she was one of the most successful people I taught. Megan be the other one, so 1 and 1A. So, and I think that came from the fact that she had to learn stuff on her own because I wasn't able to lead her. And so to Robert's point, Robert had a Bruce Lee quote, if you're a good student, you come to me with your cup empty. Yeah, for sure. Like if you guys are going to take a lesson from someone, you should arrive with the idea that you're the new person, and if you've picked the right teacher, and I would spend some time to make sure you got the right teacher. There's no magic in that, by the way. It's finding the right person you can communicate with that is either a proficient dancer or has taught proficient dancers, and you find the right teacher, and then you stand back to Robert's point, you come with an empty cup. And so in jiu-jitsu, I got a funny story. My teacher was Helio Seneca. He was in 1996. The original World Championships of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was in 96, and Seneca was one of the original founders. And if you're a martial arts fan, his family is married to a Gracie, and on the foundation of Gracie Barra and all that mumbo jumbo there. And he moved to Louisville 15 years ago. And so everyone looked at this crazy little Brazilian guy, and they kind of went, well, he's crazy. Like, he throws rocks at people, and he's a crazy dude. But the best people in town looked at Seneca and said, he's a former world champion. I'm just going to listen to what he says, and I'm going to follow everything he says. And literally in line with those of us who followed exactly what Seneca says was who had the most success. Those of us who said, no, we got our own way of going about it, and he's crazy, so he doesn't understand this, and he's a little bit, the way he describes this isn't the best. We had less and less success the more we distance ourselves from Robert's point of just coming with an empty cup and following the teacher. Jack says, that's awesome. My teachers were champions. and their love of dance pushed him into teaching as well. Congratulations, dude. That's awesome. Yeah, and I don't think, here's the thing about being a champion. That's an interesting misnomer. For those of you guys who want to take from the champion, that's not always the best. That's not always the best choice, unless you are the number 3 person in the world and you're trying to become the world champion. Then you need to discuss what it's like going from number 3 to number 1 with a champion. But outside of that, I don't think that there's a magical thing to a champion dancer. Someone who is, and I said it before, someone who's proficient and has some sort of a history of teaching people levels of proficiency, amateur dancers, social dancers, competitive dancers, champion dancers. And then the third element is, do you have a good communication style, right? Like how you see things in the world, does that person align? If you can check those 3 boxes, take your hands off the wheel and let them drive the car because you found your person. So it's not always that it's a champion dancer because there's a lot of value in the non-champions. In fact, to some degree, I feel like Megan and I in the country world, we did not achieve the championship, right? We finished as high as 2nd place and we didn't achieve the championship. But I feel like we learned a lot through that process and that struggle that if I'd have just won, I wouldn't have understood what it's like to have lost and to have strived and not got the goal. So the champion itself isn't always the magical thing. So any other questions, YouTube and or Facebook? I got just a sip or 2 left, and then we're out. Anyone? Bueller. Bueller.
I got some more facts about Bruce Lee.
More facts about Bruce Lee. So you guys got a couple minutes left to get your questions in. More facts about Bruce Lee.
First one, he was a cha-cha champion.
He was a cha-cha champion, first fact.
2, child star.
Bruce Lee was a child star, that's number 2.
First screen time came at the very young and very adorable age of 3 months. He began martial arts at 13.
Robert says you can win or you can learn. The great Conor McGregor said that. You win or you learn.
He's awesome. Bruce Lee actually had terrible eyesight. He wore large glasses all his life and was one of the first people to ever try out contact lenses.
Bruce Lee had terrible eyesight. Who knew? Who knew? How's he supposed to see things coming? Baseball players have great eyesight to see the ball.
He never intended to become an actor. He dreamed instead of opening up martial arts schools across the U.S.
Bruce Lee never intended to become an actor. He wanted to open up martial arts schools across the U.S. That's why we have a dance studio. I never wanted to be, I did want to become a champion dancer.
There's a couple of
Becky says she's looking forward to being back on the dance floor. Yes, we all are. I will be very excited when our industry, and it makes me nervous. It makes me nervous that we're in an industry of people congregating in groups. And so I am nervous about us as an industry, and I've thought about putting a video out on that. But since there's a few hardcores left over, I'll share my my apprehensions. I wonder over the medium term, by medium term being like this year, the next physical year of time, where that will leave our industry. So I'm interested to see where that's going to go. Someone said, Claudia said, will we have line dance on your country channel? We may, Claudia, but I'll be 100% honest. We may address a couple of base line dances, but probably not in a large, what's the word? Probably not a very comprehensive way. Like, will we address some like main line dances that might be out there? Yeah. Do I love line dancing? Absolutely. It's fun fact. It's actually my favorite dance form of the world. I love line dancing. But will we address it in a big way? Probably not, and I'll tell you why. Because there's two different, because I've been in the line dance world for years and years, but there's two different main approaches to line dance. Number one is your local country bar, like your local honky-tonk dance spot, and those dances might be the same every Friday and Saturday night. And there's some main ones, tush pushes and walk the lines in these dances, right? Then there's a line dance world of weekend events, and those dances are changing constantly. And so to address the locality of the important dances in specific in Oklahoma versus Texas versus South Florida versus Portland, Oregon, that's tricky because it's different regionally. And then the people that travel around and do dance classes and dance events, those dances literally change every several months, so it's difficult to keep up with us. But if Claudia, do you know Rachel McEnany? Tell me if you know Rachel McEnany. If not, I'm going to put you in contact with her because she's awesome for line dance. Jack says that Bruce Lee was supposed to be cast in the Kung Fu series, but David Carradine got into it first.
We will be doing line dances, a few of them this week.
We will be doing some line dances in this upcoming week. I might not be here for a chunk of time, and so the girls are going to approach some line dances. So there will be some line dances that will keep us entertained, which is also appropriate since we're stuck inside. Tim Bell says, if I remember correctly, I had the honor of taking a line dance workshop with Robert Royston back in the early 90s in Joplin, Missouri at one of Dave and Lynn Thornton's events. How fun is that, Tim? Because I think we talked about this last night or the other night. Jacob Thornton, which is the grandchild of David and Lynn Thornton, started working in our studio this past August. So I was excited because he's a third-generation country dancer. Martin says, Benji Schwimmer often refers to West Coast swing as modern swing. Any idea why? Yes, because West Coast swing evolved from Lindy Hop back in maybe the 50s. I might get that a little bit wrong. We did an interview on the history of West Coast swing, so you can Google history of West Coast swing and you can see an article we wrote and a couple of videos on that. But why is it being referred to as modern swing or contemporary swing? It's because over the years, swing has changed from the initial swing that evolved from Lindy Hop. So dance forms change over the years. I would say every 10 years is the first tick of the dial, and you might not see it until into the second 10 years where the tick of the dial has significantly changed. And in my experience, I've been dancing for 20 some odd years, Robert 35. Like if you look at every 10 years, you'll see a little bit of a change, but by the time you click that dial to 20 years, you'll see a pretty darn different dance. By the time you click the dial to 30 years, you're really talking about a different era, right? Because you're different, it's literally a different era of dancers, it's a different era of music, and it's a different era of styles that live on the shoulders of the people who came before you. So why is West Coast, we did an article on should West Coast swing change its name, you can Google that as well. And that's why, is because what's being done today is dynamically different from the initial West Coast swing in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and today. I feel like so that's why it's being, that's why the different thing. Claudia, yeah, check out Rachel's line dance channel. If you are dancing in a local bar / country honky tonk, it might not be the most appropriate because Rachel deals with the coolest cutting edge stuff, but I love Rachel. She does some online stuff.
They've also on Facebook been doing some retro line dances.
Yeah, can you drop 7 Era Media on there as well? Because that's a good resource.
But yes, I can.
Yeah. Jack says, I've seen videos of great shag dancers and it looks like real fun as well. Yes, I do not know much about shag. I know some cool shag dancers through my travels, Sam and Lisa West and the rest, but I do not know much about shag specifically. Tim says he thinks that Robert was teaching a cowboy hip hop 164 beat line dance. So for those of you guys who know Rob I, you might not know Rob I, Rob Ingrenthron, Iron Man. He was a country and swing and line dancer, and so he one time, he's a very funny guy, he said he wanted to do a 364 count line dance called Way Too Long. And then he wanted to do a 1 count line dance called Way Too Long, the short version. I thought that was funny. Sherry says, thank you for these Monday events. You're welcome. We do these 6 days a week. 6 days a week. We rest on Sundays. It's a little bit of a grind. I won't lie. Like we're in here every day. So, but the new schedule's out. westcoastswingonline.com/live. Good to see you, Robert. He says, keep him posted on future live chats. Heck yeah, we should interview Robert at one point. Put that on our list. We'll interview Robert. Yeah, dude, if you're still around, I'll reach out to you. We'll maybe do a quick live chat. That'd be super stupidly fun. So you're welcome, Sherry. We love doing this stuff. It keeps us sane. All right, gang, my last sip of bourbon, and then we're out because Miss Megan needs to go home. I can tell. I can tell her body language over her computer. She's working, editing videos. So, thanks for hanging out with us, gang. Hope you guys are well and safe. Our schedule is out for the week. West Coast Swing Online /live. Other cool stuff we have going on. Always since we're stuck at home, go to the website, Country Dance or westcoastswingonline.com. The resource page has lots of cool stuff. countrydanceonline.com. The resource page has lots of good stuff. I'm assuming if you're watching this, you get our emails. If not, you definitely want to enter your email address on the front page of either one of those sites, and you'll be on our Move of the Week list. And typically we send out emails twice per month. We're doing it probably more like every week now, so we can share some of the live videos and some of the other cool resources and stuff we're doing, because we're all stuck inside, so we figure we'll front end as much cool, entertaining stuff, whether it's live feeds or courses that we've created. That's a big one. Since we're stuck at home, this is a really good time to dig into some of the courses that we've got, which are basically kind of designed to go through by yourself, right? The videos, learning patterns, those are still the most popular videos we put out, but things like musicality and styling and spins and turns are really designed to do by ourselves, right? To up our own skill set. Can you drop that link for the courses in the bottom? If you go to the bottom of the website, the courses page, we put everything on sale. You're welcome, Salsa Bob 2000. We've enjoyed sharing. Emily's going to drop a link to our courses. So if you guys are stuck inside and you want to go through a course kind of step by step, we've got several different ones for all sorts of stuff. Do you see it? Yep, and we also have virtual coaching. So Emily's going to drop both those links in Facebook and YouTube. So by popular request, people had asked if we do online coaching, and typically no, because we have a studio, and we have a kids studio next door, we have events, and we're busy with our own students, so we have not had the opportunity to do any much online coaching because it's a little time intensive. But since we have a little free time, we are going to be doing some online coaching. So Emily's going to drop a link. It's westcoastswingonline.com/coaching. westcoastswingonline.com/coaching. And there is a step-by-step process of how it will work. You guys can, there's a PayPal button, a credit card button. You can send in your payment that way. And then there's a contact us button. Click and say, hey, I want a lesson. We're not going to do it interactive because that would be difficult to schedule. So you can either send us in and say, hey, I want to learn this, I want a video on this, or if you have a video you can send us, you can email us, Dropbox it, whatever, Facebook it, I don't care. But there's a contact us button. Send us a video if you have one, and then type us an email and say, hey, this is what I want, and then we'll come in. Within about 48 hours, depending upon the schedules of everything, we can come in and you'll get two of us that will go through the video. We'll either look at your video or take what you were interested in, and we will make a specific video for you, load it, and send you your own copy. So that's how we're kind of handling virtual lessons moving forward. Hopefully it'll be useful. Yes, Gary, if you go to that page, West Coast Swing Online /coaching, you can use PayPal, you can use a credit card. It's super duper easy. Everything's spelled out exactly there, and you can say, hey, this is what I'm interested in, and we can do a personal video for you. And I think on the page I said, we'll shoot a video for as long as it takes, whatever it takes us to explain, talk about, demonstrate. It'll be very, very specific to whatever you ask. And although we have tons of content, and probably somewhere in the annals of everything we've ever shot, there exists an answer. The bonus to that is that if we shoot a video specifically for you, and then I go, hey, I know we've got this blog post, this other video, this other helpful resource, we'll just link that up and send it to you. So not only will you get your personal video, you will get whatever resources we can think of that we already have in existence. We'll cobble it together and give it to you to give you as much as value. So yes, you can pay with PayPal or credit card. It's all there on West Coast Swing Online /coaching. Let me just check Facebook real quick. Bingo. Thanks, gang. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks to Miss Emily and Megan for staying late. And West Coast Swing Online /live is our live schedule. You'll see all the other cool stuff that we have going on in the upcoming week. So, love you guys. Thanks to Robert Royston for hanging out with us tonight. That was pretty cool. And we'll see you guys again soon.